Welcome to the future. Tech comes alive. AI innovations, watch us thrive. Every week we gather insights and fun. AI adventures, the best is yet to come. Join us in this journey. Together we will find the magic of tomorrow with futures intertwined.
All right, so you know how you just click agree without reading VideoGen's terms and conditions?
Yeah.
We all do it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely guilty of that myself.
But we are going to take a deep dive into that fine print today.
It's great.
The legal bedrock of this platform
Love it.
might not be as glamorous as actually creating the videos, but it is crucial for understanding how this platform works.
It's like the rule book that no one reads.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're going to decode it today.
So we're starting with the basics.
All right, let's do it.
The agreement is with VideoGen, Inc., headquartered in sunny San Francisco.
California dreaming, Silicon Valley vibes.
And when they say site, they mean the whole shebang, the website, apps, any way you access VideoGen.
Makes sense.
Simple enough, right?
So far, so good.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Oh.
VideoGen can actually change these terms whenever they want.
Okay, so it's not
a static document.
like set in stone.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but-
Remember that agree button we all click so quickly?
Ooh.
It carries more weight than you might think.
Yeah, that's a bit unsettling
Right.
to think about.
Yeah, what if a feature you rely on just disappears
Exactly.
because the terms shifted?
It highlights the dynamic nature of these agreements, you know.
It's like a recipe where the ingredients
That.
can change without notice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it.
So it's not just about knowing the terms, it's about
Yeah.
knowing that they're not constant.
Exactly.
So you should check back every now and then.
Especially if you rely on certain features.
Especially if there's something you really depend on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another important thing they mention in this basic section is the age restriction.
Okay.
VideoGen is for users 13 and older.
Right.
So younger users need parental permission.
Makes sense?
Which makes sense given the complexities of these agreements.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, now let's move on to something that can be a bit murky.
Okay.
Intellectual property. We all know how easy it is to copy and paste in the digital world,
Oh, yeah.
but what are the rules of the road on VideoGen?
Right.
So VideoGen owns all the content on its platform. The code, the design, even the text.
That's interesting.
So think of it like a museum.
I see.
You can admire the art,
Right.
but you can't walk out with it.
You can't just take it home.
Right.
Okay.
So I can't just download a bunch of their stock footage and use it in my commercial project without permission.
Exactly. You get a limited license to use the site
Yeah.
for personal, non-commercial purposes.
So it's all about protecting the rights of creators in the digital age.
Absolutely. Even though it's easy to share and copy online,
Right.
someone put time and effort into creating that work.
It's like you can quote a book for a school paper,
Yeah.
but you can't just reprint the whole thing and
Right.
sell it as your own.
Good analogy.
Okay, now let's move on to user responsibilities. What are the key things we need to know to be good citizens of the VideoGen universe?
It all starts with honesty.
Okay.
So, providing accurate information when you register, safeguarding your password like it's precious treasure.
Okay.
And of course, using the platform for any illegal activities.
So no hacking,
Right.
no hate speech.
Exactly. No harassing other users.
Basically, don't be that person who ruins the online party for everyone else.
Right. It's about fostering a safer and more enjoyable online environment.
And that benefits everyone.
Absolutely, when users treat each other with respect and consideration.
Right, after all, a community thrives when it's built on trust and positive interactions.
That's a good point.
Speaking of thriving, let's talk about the financial side.
All right.
Fees and payments.
Let's get into it.
How does money flow in VideoGen land?
So they accept all the usual suspects.
Okay.
Major credit cards.
Right.
Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, and platforms like Stripe.
Pretty standard for online services these days.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's worth noting that some services might require payment.
Right.
And they really emphasize this in the terms that you provide accurate and updated payment info.
That's interesting.
Do you think it's because of subscription services?
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be related to that. Or maybe they're planning on introducing some premium features in the future.
Okay, so standard credit cards, potentially some paid features.
Right.
What about refunds?
Ooh, good question.
What if I buy something and then immediately realize I don't need it?
So this is where it gets a little tricky.
Oh,
All purchases are non-refundable.
okay.
However, subscriptions can be canceled.
So once you click that purchase button,
You're committed.
you're in it.
It's a good thing to keep in mind.
Especially if you're considering purchasing something.
Right. Always double check.
Always double check before you hit that buy button.
Yes, definitely good advice.
Okay, now let's talk about content ownership and restrictions.
All right.
This can be confusing for a lot of people, especially in terms of what users can and cannot do with the content they create on the platform.
Right.
This is where VideoGen's terms get really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Currently, they don't allow users to submit their own content.
Interesting.
But even if they did,
Uh-huh.
they explicitly state that users would still own their contributions, but they would grant VideoGen a license to use them.
So they could still use my videos, even though I created them.
It's more like they have the legal right to display it and share it within the context of their platform.
I see.
Think of it like a social media site.
Okay.
You own your posts, but they have the right to display them and use them for promotional purposes.
Gotcha.
So they're protecting themselves legally while also acknowledging that users retain ownership of their creative work.
That makes sense.
And even though users can't currently submit their own content, they have strict rules against certain types of content that could be harmful or disruptive.
Like what kind of content?
Anything illegal, hateful, harassing, or spammy.
Makes sense.
So it's about fostering a positive and safe environment for all users.
So it all ties back to the user responsibilities we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Creating a respectful and supportive community.
Benefits everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's move on to something that affects pretty much everyone online.
Okay.
Third-party content and advertising.
Oh, yeah.
We all encounter those tempting links and flashy ads
All the time?
while we're navigating the digital landscape.
It's like a minefield out there.
Yeah, so what's VideoGen's take on that?
So they acknowledge that their site might contain links to other websites and third-party content,
Okay.
but they make it very clear that they're not responsible for what you find there.
So they're just providing the platform.
Exactly.
They're not endorsing or vetting every link or piece of content.
And they're saying, hey, we're providing the space,
Okay.
but you're on your own when you click those links.
It's like a town square with flyers for all sorts of businesses
Oh, I like that.
that you might not know.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
It's up to you to decide which ones you trust.
You, the user, are responsible for being discerning.
And the same goes for advertisers.
Exactly.
So if I see an ad on VideoGen and it turns out to be a scam, that's not VideoGen's problem.
Not according to their terms.
Okay.
They say that advertisers are responsible for their own ads and services.
So I click and engage at my own risk.
Precisely.
It's a good reminder that we need to be savvy online consumers.
Yeah, you can't trust everything you see.
Even on platforms we trust.
Absolutely.
Okay, now let's talk about what happens when things go wrong.
Uh-oh.
Dispute resolution.
All right, let's get into it.
What if I have a disagreement with VideoGen?
So the first step is always informal negotiation.
Okay, so try to work things out amicably.
Exactly.
Without involving lawyers or courts.
Right. Sometimes a simple email or phone call can do the trick.
Keep it simple. Keep it civil.
Exactly.
Oh, what if those efforts fail?
Then things get a little bit more formal.
Okay.
And this is where it's crucial to understand the terms you've agreed to.
Okay.
VideoGen requires binding arbitration for most disputes.
So it's like a private court.
Right.
Where a neutral person decides the outcome.
Exactly.
And you are agreeing to accept their decision.
It's an alternative to going through the traditional court system.
So no dramatic courtroom scenes, no jury deliberations.
No.
It's all decided by this arbitrator.
That's right.
But what if I disagree with their decision?
Well, that's the thing about binding arbitration.
Okay.
You're agreeing to accept the arbitrator's decision as final. There are very limited grounds for appeal.
Yeah, it seems like you're giving up a lot of control over the legal process.
It is a trade-off.
Right. And you're also waiving your right to file a lawsuit.
And have a jury trial.
It makes you think twice about picking a fight with a tech giant, doesn't it?
It does highlight the power dynamics at play.
Yeah. But there are exceptions to this binding arbitration clause.
Right. There are some cases where you can still take VideoGen to court.
Like what?
Well, disputes related to intellectual property rights.
Okay.
Like allegations of theft, piracy, invasion of privacy, unauthorized use.
So if your fundamental rights have been violated, you can still pursue legal action.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good to know there are safeguards in place.
There are?
For serious issues.
Yes.
But even with those exceptions, it's clear that VideoGen has structured their terms to encourage arbitration.
It's definitely a strategic move.
Now, there's one more section we need to cover.
Correct.
Something specific to VideoGen.
Right.
iStock by Getty Images.
Ah, yes.
This section gives us a glimpse into how platforms navigate licensing agreements with major content providers.
It's a fascinating little corner of the terms and conditions.
So tell me the story.
So VideoGen uses visual content from Getty Images.
Okay.
And there are specific rules about how that content can be used.
So I can't just download a beautiful image from their library and use it for my website's banner.
No, not exactly. The content can only be used within VideoGen itself.
Okay.
And only for digital displays.
I see.
They've even gone so far as to deactivate the right-click function to prevent downloads.
Wow, they're serious about protecting those images.
They are. You can't modify, resell, or distribute the material in any way.
It makes you appreciate the complexities of licensing agreements in the digital world.
It does. They have to balance user convenience
Right.
with the needs to protect the rights of content creators and providers.
It's a delicate dance.
It is, and these agreements provide the choreography.
We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We've unpacked user responsibilities, intellectual property content restrictions, and even touched upon the world of dispute resolution and licensing agreements.
I'm exhausted.
Me too.
But it's fascinating stuff.
Who knew terms and conditions could be so layered?
Right. They're not exactly light reading, but they offer a fascinating glimpse into the inner workings of the online world.
And there's still more to uncover.
Oh, there's always more.
I can't wait to dive deeper.
Let's do it.
So we talked about how VideoGen owns the content on their site and users get a limited license. But what about when VideoGen uses content from somewhere else, like those iStock photos?
Yeah, that's a great question. And brings us to this iStock by Getty Images section.
Okay.
Which is kind of fascinating because it shows how layered these agreements can be.
Okay, break it down for me. What's the gist of this iStock situation?
So essentially, you can use those images while you're on VideoGen, like while you're working on your video, but you can't download them or use them outside of the platform.
So I couldn't grab an iStock photo from VideoGen and use it for like a thumbnail on my YouTube channel?
Nope, not without getting permission and the proper license directly from Getty Images.
Okay.
VideoGen's just letting you use it while you're in the VideoGen ecosystem.
So they're navigating copyright law and protecting the intellectual property rights of Getty Images.
Right, and they're really serious about it because they even deactivate the right-click function.
Oh, wow.
To prevent downloads.
So Getty Images wants to make sure their content is used legally and ethically.
Exactly.
And platforms like VideoGen have to respect those boundaries.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, you know?
Right.
VideoGen wants to offer all these visuals, but they got to play by the rules.
It's like borrowing a book from a library.
Yes.
You can enjoy it while you have it.
Right.
But you can't just make copies and hand them out to your friends.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about social media integration.
Right.
You know, the world of interconnected accounts.
Oh, yeah. It seems like every platform wants to know everything about us these days.
Yeah, they want access to your whole online life.
Exactly.
And VideoGen is no exception.
Right.
They allow you to link your account with your profiles on other platforms, like Facebook or Twitter. So I can log in with my Facebook credentials and share my VideoGen creations directly to my feed.
Yeah, super convenient.
It is convenient.
But there's a trade-off.
What's that?
By connecting those accounts, you're giving VideoGen permission to access and store content you've shared on those platforms.
Wait, so all my Facebook posts could end up on VideoGen?
Not necessarily all of them.
Okay.
But they do gain access to your public information.
Okay.
And potentially even more depending on the permissions you grant.
Okay. That's a little creepy.
It is a little bit.
I wouldn't want my entire Facebook history on my VideoGen profile.
Right. It's understandable to be concerned about data privacy these days.
Yeah.
Especially with how interconnected everything is.
Yeah, and what's even more interesting is they can also access your email address, book, and contacts list.
From those linked accounts.
From those linked accounts.
Yeah.
So they're going to start spamming my friends with VideoGen invites.
Well, they say that their purpose is to identify and inform you of any contacts who are also using VideoGen. So it's a way for them to grow their user base.
Grow their network.
Exactly, and create a more connected community.
Clever, but also a little unsettling.
It can feel like an invasion of privacy, for sure.
Especially if you weren't expecting it.
Right.
So it's important to remember that You can always deactivate the connection
You can.
between VideoGen and those other accounts.
Right, if you're not comfortable with that level of access.
Yeah, I wouldn't want them to have access to all of that.
It's about being informed and making conscious decisions about how you navigate the digital world.
So we have a choice when it comes to how interconnected we want our online identities to be.
You always have a choice.
So we've talked about content ownership and restrictions.
Right.
We've talked about social media integration.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm curious about submissions.
Okay.
What if I have a brilliant idea for a new VideoGen feature?
Oh, yeah.
Can I share it with them?
Absolutely. They encourage user feedback.
Okay.
But by submitting any ideas, suggestions, or even general feedback, you're essentially giving VideoGen full ownership.
Wait, so if I share my $1 million idea
Mm.
with VideoGen and they implement it, I get nothing.
That's essentially what their terms state.
Wow.
Your submissions become their sole property
Okay.
to use as they see fit without any obligation to compensate you.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, but this kind of clause is fairly common in terms of service agreements
Okay.
for online platforms.
Right.
It protects the company from potential legal disputes.
So if you have a brilliant idea for VideoGen, talk to a lawyer
Yeah, excellent advice.
before hitting that submit button.
It highlights the importance of understanding the legal implications of our actions in the digital world.
Okay, let's move on to something that might make some people a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
Site management.
All right.
What kind of power does VideoGen have over their digital domain?
Well, they wield the digital scepter, so to speak.
Oh, tell me more about their reign over the VideoGen kingdom.
So they have the right to monitor the site for any violations of their terms.
So they're keeping an eye out for rule breakers.
Right. They want to make sure everything's running smoothly.
But what happens when they catch someone misbehaving?
Well, they can take legal action against users who violate their terms.
Okay.
And in some cases, they can even report users to law enforcement if necessary.
So they're not messing around.
They're not. They take their role as guardians of the VideoGen universe seriously.
And there's more.
Oh, yeah.
What else can they do?
They can refuse, restrict, or disable access to the site for any reason,
Okay.
or even delete your account without warning.
Yikes, that's a lot of power.
It is.
What kind of behavior would warrant such a drastic measure?
Well, anything that violates their term.
So hate speech, harassment, illegal activities, hacking.
Exactly. Basically, anything that threatens the integrity of the platform or the safety of its users.
So they're the judge, jury, and executioner of the VideoGen world.
In a sense, yes.
Yeah.
And it brings up this broader question about content moderation on online platforms.
A topic for another deep dive, perhaps.
Absolutely, a very complex issue.
With a lot of ethical consideration.
Yeah, for sure. It's a constant balancing act
Right.
between freedom of expression
Yeah.
and creating a safe and respectful environment.
Okay, let's step away from the digital courtrooms for a moment and talk about something a little more technical.
Yeah,
Modifications and interruptions.
makes sense.
No website is perfect.
Right. Things are bound to go wrong sometimes.
So how does VideoGen handle those situations?
So they acknowledge that they can't guarantee that the site will be available at all times.
Okay.
They might experience hardware or software problems, or they need to perform maintenance,
Yeah, that makes sense.
those sorts of things.
So there's always a chance that VideoGen could go dark.
It's a possibility,
Yeah.
however unlikely.
Leaving us all in a state of digital withdrawal.
Right. But here's where it gets interesting.
Oh.
They reserve the right to change, revise, update, suspend, discontinue, or modify the site at any time without notice.
So they can basically do whatever they want with the platform.
It does highlight the control they retain over their digital domain.
It's like building a house on shifting sand.
Yeah. And there's another layer to this.
Okay.
They also state that they have no liability
Okay.
for any loss, damage, or inconvenience caused by your inability to access the site.
During any downtime.
Right.
So if VideoGen suddenly goes offline and I miss a crucial deadline
Yeah.
because I couldn't access my files,
That's on you,
that's my problem.
according to their disclaimer.
So it underscores the importance of having backup plans.
Exactly. And not relying solely on any online platform
Right.
for critical work.
Good reminder that we need to be prepared for the unexpected in the digital world.
Always have a plan B.
Diversify, back things up.
Exactly. Be proactive.
Minimize risk.
Right.
Speaking of minimizing risk, let's revisit the topic of dispute resolution.
Okay.
But this time I want to focus on some of the legal details.
All right, let's get into it.
What happens if things escalate beyond those informal negotiations?
So we've already talked about binding arbitration,
Mm-hmm.
which is their preferred method for resolving disputes.
Right.
But let's delve a little deeper into the mechanics of this process.
All right, walk me through it. What exactly does binding arbitration entail?
So it's essentially a private court proceeding
Okay.
where a neutral third party, the arbitrator,
Okay.
hears both sides of the story and makes a binding decision.
So no courtroom, no jury. It's all decided by this arbitrator.
Yeah.
But what if I disagree with their decision?
Well, that's the catch with binding arbitration.
Yeah.
You agree to accept the arbitrator's decision as final.
Hmm.
There are very limited grounds for appeal.
So it's quicker and more efficient, but you're giving up some control over the legal process?
It's a trade-off, for sure.
And you're also waiving your right to a jury trial.
Correct.
It makes you wonder if it's even worth fighting them on anything.
It does highlight the power imbalance
Right.
between individual users and these large platforms.
But there are exceptions to this binding arbitration clause.
Right.
We talked about those earlier.
We do.
Issues related to intellectual property theft or invasion of privacy can still go to court.
Exactly.
But for most other disputes.
It's arbitration all the way.
Okay, so we've explored this world of binding arbitration.
We have.
But there's one more aspect of dispute resolution that I find fascinating.
Okay.
The role of electronic communications, transactions, and signatures.
Right. So much of our lives happen online these days.
Right, but how does that translate legally?
Yeah. It's where the digital world and the legal system intersect.
So clicking agree on a website has the same legal weight as signing a paper contract.
In most cases, yes.
Wow.
By using VideoGen, you consent to receive electronic communications.
Okay.
And you're agreeing that all agreements, notices, disclosures provided electronically are legally valid.
So an email from VideoGen is just as official as a formal letter delivered by courier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the truly transformative part.
Oh.
You're also agreeing to the use of electronic signatures.
So I can sign a contract with VideoGen by just typing my name in a box.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Electronic signatures have become legally binding
Oh.
in many jurisdictions.
So it's really revolutionized how business is conducted online.
It has. It's amazing how technology is reshaping even our legal systems.
Now, before we move on, I want to highlight something specifically for our listeners in California.
Oh, yes, this is an important point.
Okay.
California has very strong consumer protection laws.
Okay.
And if you're a resident of California and you have a complaint with VideoGen
Mm-hmm.
that you can't resolve through their internal processes,
Okay.
you have another option.
What's that?
You can contact the Complaint Assistance Unit of the Division of Consumer Services of the California Department of Consumer Affairs.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
It is.
So there's a specific government agency
There is.
dedicated to helping consumers resolve disputes with businesses.
Exactly. They can provide guidance, mediation, and even take legal action on your behalf.
So they've got your back.
They do.
That's fantastic.
It's good to know that there are resources available
Yeah.
to help level the playing field.
When dealing with large companies,
Absolutely.
we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From licensing agreements to dispute resolution, electronic signatures.
It's been a journey.
Who knew terms and conditions could be so revealing?
They're a window into the inner workings of the digital world.
And I'm sure there are even more insights to be discovered
Oh, definitely.
as we continue our deep dive.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about how VideoGen can change their terms whenever they want and how they can monitor the site and even delete accounts. It feels kind of one-sided, you know?
It does raise those questions about power dynamics in these agreements.
Yeah, you're agreeing to these rules, but they can shift at any time.
And VideoGen retains a lot of control.
It's like playing a game where the rules are always changing.
That's a great way to put it. And it highlights the importance of understanding your rights as a user. Because if you look closely, you'll find these clauses that protect VideoGen.
The fine print.
Yes, exactly. The fine print that protects the company from pretty much everything.
So they're not responsible for any errors, inaccuracies, or omissions on their site.
Exactly. And they're also not liable for any damages that might result from using the site.
So if I'm relying on information from VideoGen and it turns out to be wrong and I lose money because of it, tough luck.
Basically, yes, they're saying they're providing a platform, but they're not guaranteeing the accuracy of the information.
So it's up to the user to double check everything.
Exactly. You have to be discerning and think critically.
It's like reading a book.
Yeah.
You don't just believe everything the author says.
Right, you have to do your own research.
So we need to be active participants in our online experiences.
Exactly, not just passive consumers.
And this idea of limited liability pops up in other places, too.
Oh yeah, they're not responsible for any unauthorized access to their servers.
Okay.
Interruptions and service bugs, viruses, you name it.
So they're like, hey, we're doing our best, but no promises.
Yeah, pretty much they're acknowledging that things can go wrong.
So what does this mean for us as users? Are we just powerless?
Not at all. You just need to be aware of the risks.
Okay.
Read the terms carefully and don't put all your eggs in one basket.
So have backup plans, diversify your online activities.
Exactly. Be prepared for the unexpected.
Okay, now there's one last section in these terms that I found pretty interesting.
Go ahead, what is it?
It's about governing law.
Oh yeah, the legal compass that guides us.
Yeah, so which legal system has jurisdiction over disputes related to VideoGen?
Well, the governing law for these terms is the state of California.
Where VideoGen is headquartered.
Exactly.
So even if I'm using VideoGen from a different country, any legal issues would be subject to California law.
That's what the terms say.
It's a reminder that the internet might be global,
Right.
but legal systems are local.
It's a fascinating intersection.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
It is from data privacy
Mm-hmm.
to intellectual property to dispute resolution.
These terms and conditions, they're more complex than they seem.
They're like a window into how the digital world works.
And by understanding them,
Yes,
we can navigate that world more confidently.
absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Well said. So we encourage you to explore the terms of other platforms you use.
You might be surprised by what you find.
And with that, we'll leave you to ponder the implications of all we've discussed today.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the future. Tech comes alive. AI innovations, watch us thrive. Every week we gather insights and fun. AI adventures, the best is yet to come. Join us in this journey. Together we will find the magic of tomorrow with futures intertwined. Gadgets and creations, lights and all the sounds, wandering through the marvels, new wonders found. Moments we'll remember, times we'll hold dear. The future is a canvas, bright and clear. Join us in this journey. Together we will find the magic of tomorrow with futures intertwined. Moments we'll remember, times we'll hold dear. The future is a canvas bright and clear. Join us in this journey. Together we will find the magic of tomorrow with futures intertwined.